Hey guys, my name is Ryan, and welcome to Overwatch Central. In the pro scene at least, the main support player tends to play Lucio and Mercy, both of which are very popular support heroes that can often make quite a lot of mistakes without you noticing. So in this video, FunnyAstro, who was the main support player for British Hurricane and now full-time streamer, is going to break down 5 mistakes for Lucio players and 5 mistakes for Mercy players and what you can do instead. You can check out all of FunnyAstro's details in the description below, but let's get started. So before we get into some of these mistakes for both Lucio and Mercy, why should people listen to you about both of these heroes?
So I've played Lucio and Mercy both at the professional level, previously playing for British Hurricane, and I've also played thousands of ladder games as Lucio and Mercy as one of the top rated main supports on the ranked ladder, having multiple accounts reach top 10.
We'll start with Lucio mistakes first before we go into the Mercy ones. There's lots of different areas that we can highlight. We could probably come up with 10 mistakes easily, but when it comes to the weapon, firing, it's often overlooked piece of Lucio's kit. With the amount of damage you can do and the ability to build up that ultimate, what mistakes do you see?
So the main thing is underestimating your own damage and not knowing how much you can do. So other than that, another thing is not pre-firing at head height. You should always be spamming corners at head height, so if people walk around the corner, you get the double damage headshot. It helps you build ult faster, and also makes it more likely for you to get a pick early on.
How can one practice their aim as Lucio then? We kind of went over this in another video where we've VOD reviewed some Lucio gameplay, but deathmatch, headshot, sort of custom lobbies, how would you want to improve your own aim? Because it feels that it's often a confidence thing when it comes to Lucio players trying to get those headshots in, right? So they just go for the body shots.
I think the easiest way to improve your own aim is try and consciously think about it. All I ever do is just play ranked and then consciously go for the headshots. So just think about where you're shooting and where the enemy is going to be when your shots will hit.
So I guess just make more of a conscious effort to focus on aim as opposed to just existing as Lucio, right?
Yeah, if you spend certain amounts of time consciously focusing on each of Lucio's different mechanics, say at the start you only focus on your aim and then a few games later you're only focusing on positioning, eventually you'll manage to get in the habit of doing all the things at the same time to a high enough level.
Going into the next mistake, the aura is the most important bit of Lucio's kit. It's where he's able to speed boost people into battle and also heal them up. Not specifically talking about the amp it up ability just yet, but what mistakes do you feel that people need to improve on when it comes to the aura as a whole?
I think the main thing is always having the correct people in your aura. For example, if you're playing a dive comp, then you should make sure you always try and have your DPS in the aura so that they can try and go in and deal as much damage as possible. And if you're in a comp where you need to peel heavily, where you have more snipers, further long range comp, then you should make sure you have more of your backline in your aura at all times.
And there's some like key positioning pointers that you wanted to make and have made, that such as standing on the high ground is a really good thing to do as Lucio, because not only does your aura go to the sides, it also works in a vertical space, right, as a sphere.
Yeah, so you can always use this and make sure that you can play above your teammates, which is a better position to shoot down on people. It gives you a better angle to hit headshots as well.
I guess that comes under positioning too, right, as a big area of Lucio's kit. So how do you learn where's good to stand for Lucio? I suppose it's the best sort of description, because there's so many different maps. Finding where you should be can be quite difficult, right? Would you just watch pros?
The best ways to do it is either to watch pros or just to play hundreds and hundreds of games and then slowly work out which way is the most effective. I think the easier of those two is probably to watch professional gameplay and try and break down what they're doing and see how they're trying to position themselves.
Next we'll go over speed boost, which of course is the amp it up when you're in the speed aura. It feels that it, again, often underutilized in the right hands at least. Where do you want to be using it? And I guess most importantly, when don't you want to be using it?
So you want to be using speed boost when your team has some sort of advantage over the enemy team. So say you've managed to get more poke in and your teammates have hit more shots, so you force their Ana to use a nade or something. Then you can speed boost in aggressively because you have a cooldown advantage. That's the main thing. If you don't want to be speeding in when you're at a disadvantage. So say your team is lower health than the enemy team, you want to be using that that are for the healing, not for the speed boost, so that you can try and gain an advantage slowly instead of going in so aggressively.
And this goes into the ultimate. Soundberry is one of the strongest support ultimates in a pinch. It's perfect for finding those clutch moments as a Lucio, really. So I guess working out when to use it and when not to use it is such a big part of playing Lucio to a T.
Yeah, I think the easiest way to know when to use your ult is just to press tab in the middle of a game and think about what you want to counter on the enemy team. So maybe if they have a Genji, you should be focused on using your ultimate to counter their blade. And sometimes even ult tracking, which is a lot harder and a lot more of a higher level thing, but it should still be used in lower ranks. So if you know the enemy team has no ults, then you can use your beat aggressively and get onto them and make sure your team can go in without taking any damage.
We'll go over Mercy now. We'll start with the most primary ability that she has, her healing. What can you say about when to use this, and I guess most importantly, who to use it on when it comes to priority?
Okay, so when it comes to healing, priority is Mercy. One of the main things you always want to be watching out for is your other support in your team. Most team compositions require having 2 supports. It's pretty standard. So you'll most likely either have an Ana or a Zen, or sometimes a Lucio as your second support. So you should always be paying attention to when they're in a rough situation. So if they're taking damage, you should always be looking at them, making sure you're healing them. Other than that, you should just be focused on keeping your tanks and your DPS alive. Mainly prioritizing on DPS when they're getting low, because it's easier for them to get finished off because they have a smaller health pool. Another thing is making sure you always have your tanks healed up when they have armor, because you still heal armor at the same rate as you heal health. For example, Reinhardt, I'm not sure how much of his health is in armor and how much of it is actual health, but you still heal the same rate as armor, but it makes them take less damage. So if your tanks are topped up on armor, then you essentially get more value out of your healing.
It's a similar thing for damage boost, right? Like knowing who to damage boost. In a lot of cases, it is just holding right click on maybe a Hanzo or a Junkrat or a Widowmaker, but you want to highlight, don't neglect the tanks a lot of times.
Yeah, a lot of times I see lower level Mercies not damage boosting tanks at all. For example, if you've got a Reinhardt swinging into 4 people, that is going to be dealing so much damage if it's damage boosted. It will help you kill people faster, it will you get your ult faster, it's so useful. Another thing is making sure you damage boost like a Roadhog if he hits a hook or something, so you can make sure he finishes off that target.
Guardian Angel is one of the things that makes Mercy quite an engaging hero in a lot of senses. She's the most mobile hero in the game, it feels, especially for the support category. So when it comes to that, I'm assuming there's going to be loads of mistakes that people make when using this ability. So what is the main one for you?
The main thing I see is when people are using their Guardian Angel when there's really no need to. So if you're already in a safe position where you're pretty much not getting damaged and there's no one trying to kill you, you shouldn't be using your Guardian Angel or just spamming it at all times. You should be saving it for when someone tries to kill you, or when someone else on your team is low. For example, if you use your Guardian Angel on a tank for no reason at all, if they're already full health, and then across the map somewhere else your DPS takes too much damage, then if you'd wasted your shift, then there's 2 seconds where you can't be healing your DPS who's taken damage. So you need to make sure you're always saving that cooldown for when it's necessary.
So I guess don't use it for the sake of using it.
Yeah, it's mainly just I see a lot of people spamming the Guardian Angel to, I don't know, make their movement unpredictable or something. But a lot of the time that's really not necessary, and you should just be using it to dodge damage when people start shooting at you or try and help a teammate when they're low.
Resurrect was the most important ability in the game for quite some time. Now not so much, but it's still a big ultimate used in the right situation. So how do you go about making sure that you get the most effective use out of it?
So there are 2 important things when you're rezzing. Oh, probably more than 2, but so you've got making sure your res is always getting value. So if you're already in a lost team fight where rezzing one teammate won't matter, you should look to not use your res and save the cooldown, because it is a 30-second cooldown now, which means that if you use it at the end of a lost fight, then maybe the next fight you won't have your res up. You'll also be feeding the enemy just free ult charge if you res someone and they die instantly again. Another thing is, you should make sure you're always in a safe spot when you're using your res. So if you see a Widowmaker, make sure you're out of her line of sight when you're using it, otherwise she's just going to kill you instantly. And you should always look to make sure that there's nothing that can kill you when you're using it.
And finally, Valkyrie. The biggest debate is always when is the perfect time to use it, before fight, during, or even after in some cases. For you, where do you stand on this ultimate? Where do you feel that people are going wrong with it?
I feel like, especially since Valkyrie has received the recent change about the healing per second, your healing per second when you use your Valkyrie goes from 50 health per second to 60 health per second, which is not much of a difference, but I think this can definitely be used if you use your Valkyrie earlier on in fights. So maybe when people have just started to take damage and walk forward, that's probably the best time to use your Valk, because you can get that extra healing per second, you can get that AoE healing, and always call to your team that to make sure that they know you're using your Valk, so that they can stay together, get that grouped up healing bonus, and that grouped up damage boost when they're all full health. You can always use your Valk to try and finish off kills and play aggressively and deal damage. So if you see an enemy DPS, or like anyone really, who's low and trying to run away, trying to get a health pack or something, then you can try and chase after them. If you go behind your teammates, then use your shift to launch yourself forward, and then try and chase after these kills if no one else on your team can get them.
Now that we've gone over both of the main supports at least used in the pro scene, what final things do you want to go over, even if it's a case of when to play which hero? When is Lucio really strong? When is Mercy really strong?
In the current meta, Lucio is basically the better healer other than some slight situations and maps. So in my opinion, Lucio should probably be used on most maps, except maybe maps where there's longer range sightlines and high grounds which you can't wall ride to. For example, Horizon first point and second point, it's really hard to wall ride to the high grounds. There's not many spots you can use to get there. So Mercy may be more effective there if you're playing a longer range team comp, such as with snipers. Of course, as always, I think Mercy is probably best with a Pharah. So maybe on King of the Hill maps, you can play more Mercy and Pharah oriented team comps as well.
And finally, where can people find more of you playing both of these heroes to a high GM top 500 level?
So you can always find me on twitch.tv/FunnyAstro, and make sure you follow me on twitter.com/FunnyAstro as well.
And that's it for this time. Thank you very much for watching. As I said, you can check out all the FunnyAstro stuff in the description. Thank you very much for watching. Take care. We'll see you next time.